Hello and good morning. We're going to talk about point slope formula, and here it is right here. You need to memorize this. Now, here's your slope, so that's going to go right here where the M is. This is your point. This is your X and your Y. But this says Y, so the negative 3 has to go here. Remember, it's backwards. Okay, the one in the back goes in front. So it's going to be Y minus a negative 3 equals the slope, and then x minus the x. This is a double negative, so you can clean that up and put a positive. That is called point slope formula. On this one right here, um, remember it's always the second and fourth position that go at the top. So circle those. Now let's put them at the top. You could go backwards if you want. I'm going to go 7 minus negative 2. And then negative 1 minus 8. This becomes a plus 7, 8, 9. And then this becomes a negative 9. So that becomes a negative 1. That's your slope. Rise over run. Anyhow, I think I said I want you to use the front number. Doesn't matter, but I do want this one. So it's going to be y minus your y equals your slope, and then x minus your x, which is a negative. Okay? Make sure you understand point slope formula. Okay? Now we're going to expand our thoughts today, and we're going to go through the three forms of a line. So copy this down. Okay, so one is point slope. All right. The second one is slope intercept. And the third one is standard form. Write that down. You need to memorize these three. Okay? So what I want you to do in a moment is to turn to your neighbor and spend 2 minutes going over these. So you ask your neighbor, hey, what is point slope? Without looking, there it is. If they can't do it, you tell them or have them look it up. And then switch. What is slope intercept form? What is standard form? Okay, so quiz your neighbor and try to teach them. Now, what we're doing today is, if we take, say, this equation right here, all right, let me go back to this one. So copy this one down again. All right, we're going to go through all three forms now. This is point slope. So we're going to say y minus 7 equals negative 1 times x plus 1, because that's a double negative. Now we're going to distribute. Negative x and a negative 1. Now we're going to move the 7 by adding 7. And we're done. And that's called slope intercept form. And that's what we're doing today. Okay, I want both of these right here. All right? So let's take a look at the worksheet. If you can't be with us, this is your worksheet for today. So I want you to do it in point slope form and then slope intercept form. Only the front side. Okay? When it's a fraction, it gets a little harder. And I'll show you that in a moment. But if you're at home and you don't have a worksheet, you can copy this down. Okay? Let's talk about number one. Okay, so number one, they already give you the slope, so I plugged it in. They give you the point. Remember, the second one goes first. Okay? But now I want you to solve for y. So box this in and put point slope, because that's what that is. So we did the first thing I wanted you to do. Check. Now let's solve it. So it's going to be y plus 3 equals, I'm going to distribute, so I get negative x plus 4. I'm going to subtract 3, and I get y equals negative x plus 1. And that's my answer. And that's called slope intercept form. That's the second one. And that's what I want you to do for the entire front page. Now, excuse me, when you get a fraction, copy this one down, okay? So let's first plug it in point slope. So it's going to be y, number 9, y minus what? If you say 5, that's not correct. It's got to be the second one, remember? Y minus 1, because that's a y, and then x minus 5. Okay, that's point slope. But now to get it in slope-intercept form, if you distribute, it's going to be harder. So what you want to do is multiply by 5. Okay? So when you multiply by 5, which is your denominator, this cancels. So that's the whole purpose. So you're going to get 5y. This is a plus, so 5 times 1 is plus 5 equals 1 times x and 1 times negative 5. And now all you have to do is subtract 5. So you get 5y equals x minus 10, right? You got to add those up, and then you got to divide by 5 to get y by itself. So y equals 1x over 5 minus 2. That is slope-intercept form. So if it's a fraction, multiply by the denominator. Write that down. Fraction, multiply by denominator. And what that's going to do is clear your denominator. Okay? So put clear denominator. That's the rule. Okay? Makes it easier too. All right. So that's liberal arts there. We're going to turn our attention now to college algebra. So let's take a look at college algebra. So on college algebra, I want you to solve that by row echelon form. Remember, row echelon form requires all ones here and zeros here. So let's talk about this one. So to do it, I'm going to first get rid of this bottom one. So I'm going to multiply the top by negative 3 and add it to the bottom. So the top stays the same. The middle one stays the same. But the bottom one, that's going to become a 0 when you add it up. This is a negative 3, so it's 6 minus 3 is 3. This is going to be 0. 0 plus 7 is 7. This is going to be negative 15 plus 14 is a negative 1. Okay? Next, I'm going to get this one to be a 0 by multiplying this by 2 and adding to the middle one. So the first one stays the same. The last one stays the same. But the middle one's going to change. So that's going to be negative 2, or 2 and negative 2 is 0, which is what I want. That's going to be 2 minus 1 is 1. This is going to be 2 minus 0, plus 2 is 2. And 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 minus 10 is 0. Okay? So now I have a 1 here and a 1 here. What I want to do is get rid of this to a 0. So I'm going to multiply the second one by negative 3 and add it to the last one. So the first one stays the same. The middle one stays the same. But the last one, that becomes a 0 or stays a 0. This one becomes a 0. This right here is negative 6 plus 7 is 1. And that's 0, and 0 plus that one is a negative 1. So now I have all my 1s, and I have all my 0s, and this is row echelon form. Now, on your SAT or whatever, this is x, y, z. So z equals negative 1 right here. And then you backfeed it. So that's going to be 1y plus 2z is equal to 0. You're going to plug in a negative 1 here and get negative 2. You're going to add it over here, and that's going to be y equals 2. So now you got two answers. Z is negative 1, y is 2, and then you got to find out what x is, and you can use this equation right here. So that's x, 1x, plus 1y, plus 0z is equal to 5. You plug in your x and your y, or just plug in your y, because there's no z, and you'll get your x. So that's going to be 1 times 2 is 2. And when you subtract, you get 3. So I'm going to go with 3. That's the one I'm looking for. Today's work is right here, but I want you to turn first to page 504, number 29. When you do that, page 504, open your book. Okay, so what you're going to do is copy down this matrix, and you're going to ask yourself, well, what did they do here? What did they do to make that a 1? Well, what they did was, if you look here, they divided it by 3. So 3 divided by 3 gave them a 1. 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. So your answer here should be 2. Okay? So what you're going to do on this first part is look and see what the answer is. What did they do to get to this point? Okay? Now, if you can't figure it out, ask. Okay? So on this one right here, let me think here a minute. You got to figure out these blank spots. And if you need to, just ask me, okay? So your assignment's right here. All right, and leave your work out. Remember, if you pack up before 3 minutes before the bell, you will lose points. And that includes zippers. All right, I don't want to hear that either. All right, and if you're done, read the book or do some other work. Now remember, no electronics. Have a good morning, and I'll see you in class.